Finally.
There's a lot of people who speak here. I hope they don't have a lot to say.
They don't. Only she rules us. We absolutely don't. Okay.
I brought this book. I'm going to speak from this book. Yes.
That'll take a minute.
Okay, let's get started then.
So we wanted to finish up today by giving a little bit of an overview of stuff that we've seen and problems that kept arising, and maybe where necessary to clear up a couple of things that might not have seemed quite clear to folks over time. And so where we wanted to start is with just flagging a couple things. Intersectionality came up right at the start, and it was something that people sort of were fuzzy on, and that Allison clearly has a page here on,
Which she will read in a minute.
which she will read in a minute. It's a whole chapter on intersectional theories. And just a little blurb on intersectionality is that it actually came out of work by Black feminists who were all working sort of around at the same time. A really lovely Black lesbian feminist collective, another work by Patricia Hill Collins, and she and those folks used different terms, but really they were all meaning, in some sense, the same kind of thing. And intersectionality, there's a really lovely paper on it for those of you who want to know more about it. And it is in the Journal of Women in Social Work, and it's called Toward a Continuum of Intersectionality Theorizing for Feminist Social Work Scholarship. And I'm just going to give you the 4 points that they sort of outline this theory with, drawing on work by Dill Thornton and Zambrana. And they have the 4 key theoretical interventions for intersectionality work are: 1, placing the lived lives and the experiences of people of color and other marginalized groups at the center of the development of theory. So you put those folks at the center and then you theorize from there. 2 is exploring the complexities of individual identities and group identities while making visible the ways in which diversity within groups is often ignored and essentialized. 3 is demonstrating the ways in which social inequality and oppression in the interconnected domains of the power structure are manifest. So where can we see them? And finally, promoting social justice and social change through research and practice. So those are like 4 really lovely tenets for you for intersectionality. Now, intersectionality, and any of you can jump in anytime, has also has a very nice critiques that are associated with it, and the primary critique is that it fixes identity. So what it does is it basically presumes that even if you're looking at all these intersecting identities, that we have to fix identity in order to do that. So it doesn't allow for a kind of movement between identities, among identities, between groups and stuff like that. So it sort of fixes stuff in order to get on with the work of doing feminist work, of doing work on intersectionality. So that's my little plan.
Well, maybe we should move over to Allison
Yes.
to pick up. So comments and anyone read that.
Yeah, I was thrilled to hear all the stuff that people were coming up with and the really interesting work that's being done. And learned a whole lot, like I finally know what trolls is. So I brought for you, since my mind is one of those that things slip now, Doing Feminist Theory from Modernity to Post-Modernity by Susan Archer Mann. For those of you who feel you don't have a good history of feminist theory, I can recommend this to you. It's a 2011 or 12. What year are we in now? 12. 12.
13.
Maybe.
Not yet. I'm going on sabbatical. It's 2012, and it's Oxford University Press. doing feminist theory. Now, what she does is she goes from, as she says, modernity to post-modernity, which if you don't know feminist theory, you won't know why she's doing that, but she tells you why. And in here, she talks about, we're talking about intersectionality in the first piece. She talks about, by Ansel Dua, Gloria Ansel Dua. And she talks about privileging the knowledge of the oppressed. And that is also true with feminism, particularly the more lefty versions of feminism. Feminism, women know differently because they have to know differently. And they also know more about some things than men do because they have to know more. It goes all the way back to Marx and Hegel. But you don't need to know that. So what it also does that I think is important is it begins to talk about what's called the third wave of feminism. That is that feminism is always developing, always moving, always changing. And what you learn, what we learned way back is important to bring to today, but we can't stay there. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the history of feminism or the history of why you would even think about women or oppressed groups in gaming, you need to get some of that history. You need to make yourselves familiar with what's been gone on before. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that there's a number of silos. That's one way of describing them. That's a nice way of describing them. They're often called disciplines in academic work and in the way that people sort of do their thinking. Oh, I'm an anthropologist, or I'm a political scientist. Oh, I'm a scientist, which negates all the other science. For being gamers who are claim to be feminist gamers, you must read across. And by that I mean you must read in literacy theory, you must read in anthropology, you must read in geography, political science, and so on. I know they're really boring, and for those of you who are not really into this stuff, too bad. Talk to your friends. Get Cole's notes, whatever. But read across and read the history of this. There's so much good work, and some of it's dated. Not mine, but some of it's dated. And so you use what you can, you take from it what you can. But this is, in order to be a feminist, you actually have to know more than most other people know, because you've got to understand the bases of oppression from a number of different perspectives. That's it.
Someone else. So, sort of shortish comments on what you've observed, and any other summaries, and no. Do you want to go next, Catherine?
Yeah. My shortish comments of what I observed kind of ran out by the middle of the afternoon. I was somewhat less observant and more tired, and also more knocked out by the sorts of things people were doing. It was just fantastic. So I made a couple of notes just when I was going through. It seemed to me that something that was really important and that just about all of us were addressing was how to change sort of fundamental assumptions and orientations. And given that the work I do is mostly with kids, and mostly at the moment in schools, that question of just changing thinking and changing understandings is so absolutely central. And the variety of ways in which people are coming at that, I love. Being an academic, and I won't do much on this, but I also was really struck by some of the work that's being done around research methodologies, and the I guess you know, put really bluntly, the kind of the opposition between the qual and the quant, and the personal and the numerical, and in a context where some things get funded according to what you do, and the kind of challenges that presents, and also that some things get heard because of what you do and how you do it. But what you do and how you do it shapes what it is that you actually get to learn. So that was a kind of interesting quandary for me. And the other thing I suppose that really came out for me was I can't remember who said it. Anyway, but that there was a kind of like there were two streams going on in a way about how we operate, and there was here and there little traces of things which are to do with the ways in which individually we act, and of course, individually how we act makes a tremendous difference.